Why is there no blood on this dagger considering it just went through Zoro? And they can show blood, you can see it quite a lot throughout this episode. This isn't the 4Kids version. To be completely honest with you, this style of refresher before getting the actual episode started is amazing. I don't know why they stopped doing this in later One Piece, but the style they go by now of just yapping for 5 minutes before the episode actually starts is actually the most tedious thing I've ever seen in my entire life. What do you mean, get serious? He's severely wounded carrying this giant cage made of stone and metal. I think he's about as serious as he can get at the moment. Hey buddy, she's not in the way at all. She's literally standing behind you to the side by a good amount of feet. Then again, maybe he just wants to make sure he doesn't accidentally drop the cage and crush her. They sure use this desperate situation title a lot. Like, seriously. I could probably count on at least 2 hands how many episodes in the entire series use this title. And I guess each episode has 2 titles so that they can use that kind of general premise and then a more specific one, I suppose. But seriously, this entire episode really isn't all that desperate either anyway. Because yeah, sure, Zoro's bleeding out, and that may seem desperate to us, but in all reality, he takes far worse wounds way more often than this. The most desperate situation is watching a lion fight a dog in this episode. Although this is the first time we do see Zoro carry the plot on his literal back. Isn't this the same clip they showed of Buggy last episode? Oh, yep, there it is. Where was Moji even at the entirety of last episode? I doubt he would have been in the tent. The tent's not that big. We can practically see in the entirety of it from just a few feet away from the front. And I also doubt he would have been in the ship. Unless he was like sleeping or something, he probably would have noticed Zoro and a few of his crew members pulling up. I honestly kind of feel bad because I know a lot of the things I call out are just how low quality a still frame or something is. And I've gotten a few comments that are like, this is all hand drawn in 1997. And I agree. I'm just, you know, noticing that some of these look worse than the others. Like this one, for example, it looks super pixelated. Then you have these, which look pretty dang good, all things considered. It's more so noticing a difference in quality between the shots. But I feel like I'm being extra negative by just calling out those mistakes. So I'm probably just going to only call them out when it's like truly out of the ordinary. Possibly my favorite part about Luffy is that whenever they didn't know what to do with his face or like what he was doing while something else is the center of attention, they just make him zone out and stare into the abyss. There's something funny about a dog getting a jazz beat intro. Like this dog just came straight from New Orleans or something. So you're telling me that Luffy probably could have saved Zoro some energy by just rocking the crate back and forth to move it? Or, better yet, he could have used his devil fruit to have dragged himself by stretching his arms. And I highly doubt that this cage is made of sea prism because he wouldn't be able to move at all by touching those bars, unless it's a diluted alloy of it, which I suppose is possible, but I don't know. I absolutely cannot stand when Luffy does this eye pull stretch thing. It irks me, dude. Zoro an insect now or something? Why is his blood yellowish green? Bro's a lizard person. I have a hunch that Zoro is more blown away by the fact that this dog has a human voice. And before you get on to me for making fun of the voice actor, like, I'm not going to hate on him for making the decision to use a human voice actor for the dog for whatever reason, whether it was because of budget or just not wanting to for style. But I like to imagine Zoro's just, why does that dog sound like that, in the back of his mind right now. Can't Luffy just straight up pull his body back more into the cage to avoid the dog ripping his face off? And how exactly did Zoro fall over here? He was just on the other side of the dog. Zoro's hand is at the wrong angle in relevancy to the dog in this shot. He should be more diagonal to the dog than here, as shown in literally the last shot. The key unrusted between the time that it hit the ground and the dog ate it. And according to Oda, there's this guy who repairs doors super quickly after they get destroyed to make up for inconsistencies. That way every mistake like that is actually canon and makes sense with an explanation. So by that logic, is there also someone who polishes rusty keys and objects in an instant as well? It's the One Piece verse. You never know. So I get that the dog ate the key probably because it's hungry, but it still would have had to walk all the way around the cage just to eat that key. Oh, wait. The key's on his side of the cage? But we see Luffy talking to Nami on Nami's side of the cage, where she dropped the key. So why is the key over on the dog's side of the cage? And you can tell all this by just looking at the directions that Luffy's looking in. He's looking up at Nami right here, but then he's immediately looking at the dog. This dog has Luffy freaking out so bad that he went Gear 5 slightly and started bending the cage bars like a rubber. And you see what I mean? Zoro's back on this side again. I'm convinced Zoro has a Fallout style perk where when he sleeps he regenerates like crazy compared to normal people. And that fact is obviously proven later on in the show by how many times he pulls that strategy. Like he gets hurt, he just sleeps. And the amount of time he has to sleep to heal fully is directly correlated to how much damage he took. Like how it transitions from Zoro sleeping to the dog yawning. So I want you to think about this for just 1 second. After all the character background sob stories we hear in the show, especially in the second half, the very first specialty One Piece character background sob story was for a dog. Let that sink in. Nami's talking, but her mouth isn't moving. Why is he sitting on a stone deck? What happened to the wooden one? They're still in front of the same shop, and you can see he's still sitting on it in a few shots later. So Nami's sad song is playing here, and in my head canon, it was intentional design meant to signify how much she cares about this dog and its story, so that when Luffy helps it, she has the first major crack in her armor really makes sense. But like I said, that's just my head canon. I'm sure they just selected the song to select it because it's sad. But I really like drawing connections between music and its meaning with other things. It would appear that Luffy was the first to notice that Richie and Moji were on the way. So who knows, maybe this was the first real display of observation hockey, just on a really small scale. What's that war cry? Nami says as a lion roars. Is a lion roar just automatically a war cry? Bro is tweaking out. Hold on, let me get the Scooby-Doo noise on there. I feel like they show Richie so much larger than he actually is in this episode, because he's shown much smaller at certain points throughout the series, almost like a normal sized lion, but slightly larger. You're the greatest beast tamer around, and yet all you can think of when you walk up to tame a dog is shake. I would have expected some forbidden knowledge to be employed there or something. Once again, not knocking the voice actor, but why are you hissing like a cat? This is a dog growling. Huh? Tangerines? Foreshadowing? I'm low-key impressed with the fact that this small dog managed to damage this gigantic lion. And you know what? This is the most loyal dog ever. I don't care if he has a goofy voice, I like him. And I remember all of this pacing taking forever the first time I watched it, but now that I'm used to Dressrosa level pacing, this is nothing. So why did Moji burn down the shop? Like, he was really just destructive to be destructive. Surely the dog couldn't have made him so mad that he had so much spite that he decided to go out of his way to burn the building down. I feel as if there are more cool moves Luffy uses pre-time skip because he has to be more resourceful to win battles. Whereas after time skip, he gets Haki and Gear 4, and he doesn't need to be as crafty because he has so much more raw power. But like, this move hits hard and it disorients his enemies because it spins them a lot. Like, why did he stop using this? And the answer for that is more than likely because small fries just get one-tapped by him, so he doesn't need to use special moves like I said earlier. But the big guys, when you're slamming them into the ground, there's no Haki impacting their bodies, so they're probably just not going to take damage. This shot is actually really cool looking. This is definitely going to be the episode's thumbnail. Alright, so this is all just going to be my opinion, but Nami's build-up of actually joining is possibly the most meaningful out of all the crew members in the way that it's delivered. Like, sure, Brook endured years of being alone on a ship surrounded by corpses of his friends. Jinbei was the only one who could be there at Luffy's lowest, and Robin, well, she had an entire saga dedicated to getting her back as an official member. But Nami's is delivered the best because it lays out what she believes, why she believes it, and unlike Robin, her very belief states that all pirates are bad. So Luffy convincing her to become one later on is all the more meaningful. And the reason the fact that Robin just not wanting to be alive anymore and being convinced otherwise on that isn't more meaningful here is just because it's not as targeted towards the whole pirate thing as much. But that's all just my opinion. You can feel how you want about it. But possibly the biggest thing as to why it's the best for me is because it's paced so much better. Like, it takes an entire arc, yes, but it does not take nearly as much episode time. Luffy is such a savage. Yes, I'm sure you went through traumatic things, but I don't really care about hearing them. Honestly, this is really impressive work building a town for only 40 years. Like, it went from this to this in just 40 years. And I'm no city planner, so I don't know exactly how accurate that timeline is, but it's impressive nonetheless. There's no way they use this image again. This mayor is kinda sucky if you really think about it. Like, he waited until a dog got attacked and one pet store was burned down to really decide, oh, I'm going to act now. And the final thing that pushed him over the edge was his own house getting blown up. Sir, the entire town has evacuated from what we understand, and all of your livelihoods have pretty much been destroyed by this point. And yet you're still deciding, only just now, when your house is blown up, oh, I'm going to defend my town because it's my treasure. No, it's not. Your house was your treasure. Wow, they really sold the old man that can't even pull off the exertion of being properly angry thing. Like, he sounds like he's whisper yelling. He's just hopping back and forth. He's not even moving away from the camera. As I said earlier, that was the first major crack in her armor watching Luffy help the dog. She's now willing to team up with a pirate as long as it's a good one, and she didn't even think there were good ones before, but she's not yet willing to be a pirate. Plus, she couldn't if she wanted to, thanks to what's going on at home. But Luffy pretty much knows that he has her by this point. Once he convinces you to work together with him, even if you don't want to show it, he's probably gotten on your good side. And that even includes Kid and Law, in my opinion, even though they want to be nice and stingy about it. I know one of the most cocky characters we see in the entirety of this 1,000 episode plus show didn't just tell someone else to not be cocky. Like, good lord, man. What happened to the mayor? Why is he knocked out? He was just fine. Luffy, did you punch him or something? I don't know why, but I like this episode a lot in particular just because it's so chill. Most of it was just dedicated to revealing more about all of our characters' personalities. And then there were some fun parts in there with 2 knockouts back to back. And it ended off in a moment that I actually consider pretty decently hype, which is Luffy about to finally show down against Buggy. And I know I'm saying finally when it's really been not that much time at all, especially compared to later pacing in the show. But also because of just how calm and slow this episode was, the only major thing that it really brought to the table was Luffy growing on Nami. If I missed anything, let me know in the comments down below. If you liked the video, then leave a like on it, and if you want to see more of this, then don't forget to subscribe before you go.